All right, welcome back. Another day on site. We're working on the tail end of this conveyor, and what the deal is these tail ends are not very strong. They're strong up and down, but they're not very strong side to side. And a lot of times operators will use this hook on the end to try and drag it around so that the material can fall on it correctly and the belt tracks right. Now, when they do that, they end up kind of tweaking this frame around so it's not straight, and then the belt tracks one way or the other. Kind of hard to deal with all the time. So what we're doing is I'm using this pulverizer as, you know, a stop block, and I'm pulling against itself so that I could straighten this tail end and get it back square, which it's really close. You know, it is really close to square now, and I think that's about as good as we're going to get it. So what we're going to do to keep it that way is we're going to make these large gusset plates to weld onto all these corners to keep it square, even when they're kind of yanking on this thing, which isn't ideal, but you know, that's what they do. We're back in a little bit. So what we were able to do is they're getting rid of some machinery, so they had some of these extra wear liners just laying around, and that ended up being a pretty good fit for what we needed. And did a pretty standard 3-bead pass all the way around. I ended up breaking them up in the middle. The way that these things get used and abused and kind of knocked around, I generally try and not make it a full weld all the way around, because when they beat on the side of these things with loaders and excavator buckets, you know, if a crack started up here, it could real quickly go all the way through, and I like to break up the weld in the middle in a couple spots so the crack will stop. Hopefully give it time for somebody to see it, and then we can fix it before it just, you know, breaks all the way off. I don't think that that's going to be an issue here, but I still like to do it. Makes me feel better inside. So to give them some room for this tail pulley, you know, I think that's a little tight, and it looks a little tighter because the belt's over to that side a little more so than that side. But to still give them access to this tail pulley, if they needed to actually pull it out the top, I'm gonna take a torch and cut a nice radius along both of these to give you a little more room, a little more working room in there. We'll come back after I cut that out, see what it looks like. Everything cut down. Got a nice radius from the little corners, nice big radius here, give everybody enough room to work. Kind of cut the little corners of that bolt hole off too, so there's no real sharp edges. And I think that about wraps it up. We're gonna get this cover put back on, maybe notch it out so that it sits real nice. Bolt it on and on to the next one.